Today is Tuesday, October 22nd, 2018. We're here in Fondren Library interviewing Sonia Fujimoto Parker for the Houston Asian American Archive. My name is Priscilla Lee.
My name is Mary Claire Neal.
Okay. And we'll start out with asking you where and when you were born.
October 18, 1964 in Houston. They're actually Heights Hospital here. So.
Okay, great. And what was your childhood like?
It was interesting because being Asian, there wasn't that many, especially when you go to school, all of a sudden you just feel very out of place. I felt I wanted to, become, actually my dream was always like, I want to be blonde hair and blue eyes, because you want to assimilate. I stood out and, growing up kids who would make fun of you, whereas now I think that Houston is much more diversified, multicultural. So growing up was a little rough. I mean, you just didn't feel like you fit in well. But I had made some good friends, and, luckily I came from a big family, 4 siblings, so I had sisters that were like my best friends, so that helped a lot.
Could you tell us more about your family, your extended family, and what they're like, and what your relationship was with them?
Well, growing up, being the youngest, I was hated. Because they all said, you're spoiled, and Dad and Mom, spoil you because you're the youngest. Well, that wasn't true. But, very strict Asian, by the rules. I remember my mother teaching us with flashcards at a very young age, how to read, match game, studying, and it was never like instilled. It was instilled in us about studying and you're gonna go to college, but they never said it. It was just kind of, you just knew, like, you got to go to school, you got to make good grades, and then you got to go to college. And even though they never told us, all the girls, we all knew we had to do that. So my oldest was born in Japan, and then came over, and then the rest of the children were all born here in the States. So what my mother said, she had a hard time assimilating because she spoke Japanese. And then, so it took a while because she had to learn English. So my mother thought, okay, well, my sister has such a hard time, we don't want you to learn to speak Japanese. You don't want to have the accent, because, you want to assimilate. And so growing up, I didn't want to. Now, of course, I regret never learning the language. But we grew up very close family. Every night was, you sit down, have dinner, try to talk. My dad, shh, he's going to watch the news. But, a very supportive family, very loving. Like I said, my sisters, at first we weren't that close, but as we got older, we became very close. And even now, my sisters are my best friends.
So at home, did you speak English?
English only.
English only.
But my parents would speak Japanese, and although I couldn't speak it, I could understand a few words. So I would say, what are you talking about? And I would ask them the question, and they would get mad at me. It was only English is all I spoke, and that's all I can speak now. But I could understand a few words.
Okay. And so you had 4 sisters? Or
I had 3 sisters and 1 brother.
1 brother, okay. And you were the youngest?
I was the youngest.
So did you ever face any discrimination that you can remember?
As I got older, trying to work, I saw people would make, racial comments, or just out in public. But growing up, it was more like the young kids going, ching chong chong, making fun of you. And, I was like, okay, whatever. But when I got older, I remember one time I was actually in a casino, and this old man says to me, go back to your country. I'm like, this is my country. And I was just like, wow. And then another time I was at a golf course in North Carolina, which was all white. And I was walking through the dining hall, and this lady goes, is that a Chinese? And I said, no, I'm Japanese. So, and I've had people, make other racial comments. And one time I was coming back from a minority show, going through Vidor, and it was a black girl was driving, and I was in the passenger seat, and a pickup truck with these guys came over, and they started yelling racial comments, and they started spitting on the car. And I told the girl, I said, just keep driving, just go the speed limit, just get us back to Houston. And once we got away, because I just thought, just don't do anything, don't make eye contact. So, yeah, a little bit. So I've had a few things. But as, now, like I said, you see Asians everywhere, and especially, in the news. Actresses, it's just everybody. So now it's very common, and I think that's a good thing. And Houston is great because I think that we're so diversified that it makes everybody accept different cultures and different ethnicities.
Which schools did you go to growing up? Like, can you take us just through middle?
Yeah,
elementary,
so
maybe?
kindergarten, it was Thompson Elementary, then Stovall, and then Aldine. And then I went to University of Texas in Austin.
Okay.
What were your, oh, sorry.
Did you have any favorite teachers and subjects, or did those change?
Yeah,
as
my
time went
favorite
on?
teacher was Mrs. Farley. She was my algebra and calculus teacher. And actually, I had lunch with her. It's been a while, but I touched base with her maybe 8 years ago and had lunch with her because she was such a wonderful, you could tell she loved the children.
Mhm.
She loved teaching. She got excited. And so I went back to see her. And she's on Facebook. She's like 82 maybe. She's, on Twitter. She's on Instagram. And I'm like, she's just, unbelievable. But so she got my interest in math. And so I've always had a affinity for math, even though I'm not a math major, but I had a great interest in it because of her
Mhm.
enthusiasm for the subject.
So what were your parents' occupation?
My father worked for the Harris County Mosquito Control. He started off as driving the trucks and the fogging, and then eventually worked up to assistant director. And then my mother was just a housewife, and to help earn extra money, she used to babysit children. So until I got to maybe high school, then she stopped.
And what kind of principles did they raise you on?
Honesty, saving money like crazy, it's the Asian way, making good grades, being respectful to your peers, being polite, which I think maybe we've lost some of that.
What kind of dishes did you have growing up?
Oh, yeah, at those family dinners.
Yeah.
A lot, a few times Japanese, but a lot of American dishes, a lot of fish because we were somewhat of the lower middle class.
Mhm.
So my father would go fishing at Galveston, so we would eat whatever he caught. So we would eat a lot of fishes. But a lot of American dishes, ribs, hamburger, just chicken. My mother always made a little salad. So we always had a salad in the main dish with a few vegetables, some Swanson dinners. And then every once in a while she would make some Japanese food, but not a lot, not like what you would think. But now, I love sushi. I eat at least once or twice a week and take them to go eat, sushi as well. But growing up, just pretty much American food.
Was your dad's fishing like something he liked to do for fun, or just the
A
way you
little
got
bit,
fish?
but I think more to help subsidize,
Uh,
the grocery bill basically, because then it would help pay, you go
Mhm.
fishing and then feed your children fish. So growing up, I kind of got, not fish again, because it was like fish. Now I love it, but so I think it was a little bit of enjoying it because my uncle loved to fish, but he didn't eat it. But so that's what we would do almost every weekend. It seemed like we'd go to Galveston and go fishing. So.
How much of your extended family was, I guess, in Houston with you, or that you saw on a regular basis?
We used to go to my uncles and aunts almost every weekend, and my paternal grandparents lived with them, but we would get together. I mean, honestly, it's almost every weekend we saw each other, and so my cousin also became one of my best friends.
Did you practice a religion at home growing up?
No, but my mother was a Buddhist, and she had her little. It was like I guess it was like a little shrine, and she would burn the incense and would, pray. But we never, and I would say I'm probably agnostic. I didn't grow up with any religion in the house, except, like I said, my mom believed in Buddhism. But she never went to temple. She just had her own little shrine at the house.
I see.
What were some hobbies and extracurriculars that you were involved in growing up?
I loved sports, so I ran track and played volleyball and did a little bit. I was an alternate on the tennis team. I wasn't very good. But then by the time I turned 16, it was like, that was another thing. When you turn 16, you got to go to work. And so pretty much after that, I quit the sports and started working in the retail industry, Joske's, which became Foley's, which became Macy's. But anyway, so at that age, every time, all the kids, when you turn 16, you learn how to drive, you had to go to work, and you had to start saving up money for college. That was just kind of the rule of the house.
I see. What was that like getting your first job in the work environment?
Well, I actually lied because you had to be 18 to work at Josky's. But I always loved retail and going to the store, go shopping. So I lied. My sister actually had to help me kind of get the job because some people from Josky's had come through. And she goes, "Oh, my sister wants to get a job. Oh, come see me." When I found out you had to be 18, I was like, "Well, I don't know. I'm 18." And actually, I looked older at that time. So the whole time I had to lie, which was not a good thing, but I wanted to work at retail. I didn't want, all my sisters had worked at Randall's. And I was like, I don't want to work at the grocery store. I want to work in the retail. So that's the only way I'm going to do is to have to lie. So.
Was it any different than you expected it to be after?
No, you know, I would work just in the junior department, the sales, you know, and run get people and worked usually like 3 days a week after school, you know, from 5 to 9, and then worked like Saturday. And I did that all through college as well. But no, I really liked it. I liked looking at the new clothes and talking to people and greeting them, and I enjoyed it.
So did you like grow up in the same neighborhood like in Houston?
Yes, we moved when I was maybe 6 years old from more the inner city to Pearl Valley, Greenspoint, which is, you know, further. At that time, there wasn't anything out there, but all through, basically from kindergarten all through high school in the same household. And it was a 3-bedroom house, 2 bath. So my brother got the only room by himself. 4 girls were in 1 bedroom,
This
2
is kind
double
of like
beds.
my house.
2 double beds, and they were against the wall each, 2 on the side, and you had just one thing so you could walk in. And then the shower, we put a rod to put our clothes in because we had that shower. But 4 girls, I mean, it's like unheard of nowadays. But so there's no secrets in the house.
Growing up, when you started getting ready to go to college, how did you make the decision of where to go and what, I guess, how did you make those decisions and what drew you towards certain
Well,
areas?
all my sisters went to the University of Texas.
Wow.
So I just was naturally drawn to kind of follow them. And at that time, my sister, who's 2 years older than me, we became very, very close. So I wanted to be with her. So that was a decision. I was like, you know what, I want to be with my sister. I love her. We're best friends. So she was already in an apartment. And so I said, you know what, I'm just going to go live with her. And so that was just the natural. And because I was in retail, I loved it. I started out with textiles and clothing because I thought I wanted to pursue that as my career. But I ended up changing, so.
What did you change to?
I graduated in textiles and
Oh, okay.
clothing, and I worked in the retail industry for a few years, and then I didn't like it anymore. And I was like, I don't want to work every holiday. And then also what happened was I worked for Foley's, and it got bought out by Macy's. So all the direction was coming out of New York, and I'm thinking, well, you don't really need somebody who's thinking. You're just telling me what to buy, because I was in the buying end of it. So that's when I said, you know what, I don't think I want to do that. I think I want to get into sales. So I thought I wanted to get into pharmaceutical sales or retail sales or something like that. But it was so hard because nobody wanted to take on somebody who didn't have an experience. So I got lucky and got on with a chemical company, and then I worked there 5 years and left and started my own company.
How was your college experience? Like, what kind of clubs were you in?
I wasn't. I was terrible.
Oh.
I didn't get involved in anything. I was awful. All I did was work, and I wanted to get out of college because I grew up poor. So all I wanted to do was like, get me out of school as soon as possible because I want to make money. I grew up poor, you know, and so I thought I just want to make my own money. So I didn't do anything. I never went to a UT football game or basketball. I didn't do anything. All I did was work.
Did you
And
work
now I
while you were-
regret it, believe me. I really, I tell everybody, I said, your first year, live in a dorm, make friends. You know, I could have lived with my sister after, you know, first, but I just wanted to live with her. But now I tell everybody, freshman year, live in a dorm, make friends, go to the games, get involved, because I do regret it. That's one thing I missed out on.
How long did you live with your sister in college?
For 2 years.
Okay.
And then I lived by myself in an apartment and never, you know, like I said, I didn't do anything.
So were your parents supportive in you, like, throughout your college experience and, like, majoring in textiles?
Yes,
Going
actually, it's a funny story. So on my SAT scores, I did real well in the math part and science. So I could have gone to Boston College, and my mom was like, because I probably could have got a scholarship being a minority. But I was like, that's and it's cold. I don't want to go to Boston. So my mom really wanted me to go. And I was like, I don't want to go. My dad goes, go wherever you want. So he supported me. He said, do what you want to do. So he was great. And my mom goes, well, you could be an engineer and make a lot of money. I was like, that doesn't sound interesting to me at all. I said, the retail sounds much more interesting. So my parents, my mom wanted me to do something else, but my father was very supportive and said, you want to go UT? Go to UT, major in, just get a degree. Didn't matter, just get a degree. So yeah, they were actually. And once I went up there, my mom was like, okay, that's, you're happy, so that's what matters.
That's great.
So how did you end up coming back to Houston?
So part of the internship was to go to Dallas. So I did my internship for the retail industry in Dallas. And I got a job with Dillard's at that time. But I didn't want to stay in the retail as far as the store, working in the store. And that's where they wanted me to be. I wanted to be in the buying end. So I said, I'm going to go apply at Foley's at the time. And they accepted me into the buying program. So that's why I moved back to Houston and stayed.
Cool. Where are your siblings living now, and how often do you get to see them?
So the oldest one lives in Austin. The next one lives in Houston. My brother lives in Houston, and my sister lives in Chattanooga, and I was just up in Chattanooga this past weekend. She's the one who's 2 years older than me. So the one in Houston, I see her maybe every other month, something like that. Or except for, birthdays or holidays, and we definitely see each other. Not as much as we probably should, just because we're both always seem to be very busy.
Mm-hmm.
But stay together as far as internet or texting, about what's going on, which has been very helpful as far as staying in touch with my siblings.
Can you describe the process of you going on your own to start your own company?
Yeah, so the company I was working for was a small company, and very fortunate because I learned how to do the buying, the transportation, invoicing, basically everything, from taking the order to placing it into invoicing. So when I left the company, it was actually a very easy transition for me. The hardest part was trying to get a bank to give you collateral, a commercial line of credit, so you could buy the goods. So basically the only way I was going to be able to do was to give all my stocks up. So I gave all my stocks up. So they really didn't have any risk per se, but I needed to establish that so I could be considered, real in the industry, instead of saying, oh, I can't pay you till my customers pay you. You get to pay your suppliers on time, otherwise they're not going to sell to you, and you've got to have a source of supply. So it wasn't that hard as far as making that transition because I was already used to doing everything. The hardest part was trying to get the commercial line of credit. And once I did that, and at the beginning everybody was saying, well, you got to pay me up front. So that's why I had to have it so I could write the checks ahead of time before I ever got the goods. And then once after I was in business long enough, I said, look, give me a line of credit, the vendors. And they were able to do it based on the fact that I was paying everybody on time.
What is your day-to-day work like?
Usually answering emails and trying to maybe solicit business or completing bids, following up on bids I've made, following up on emails with customers saying, do you want this product? What price do I need to be at? Then I also will call to get freight rates and then try to do quotes and then invoicing, going to the bank, post office, and then sometimes driving out of town to see customers and visiting with them and asking them, how are you doing? What else can we do? I was just up at a university in their anatomy department, cadavers. So he was showing me, okay, this is some body parts, and so he goes, do you want to look at a dead body? I go, I'll look at the bones. So that's part of it, going to visit them and trying to make sure they're happy and see what else I could sell them.
Can you describe your company? It's called Ampac?
Ampac Chemical.
Ampac.
So it's a distribution company, so what I basically do is buy from a manufacturer, from another reseller, and sell it usually to an end user who's going to make something or use it in a process. So what basically I do is I buy it, set up the transportation, and then have it delivered to them, and then invoice it.
Okay. Is it internationally or nationally, or who do you kind of?
I import a little bit, but not that much unless there's what we call a shortage. If chemicals are getting short, I need to source it from overseas. Then I might do that and import it, but most of it's all domestic.
Okay.
the jump, like, I guess you may have already answered this, but what was the jump of, like, creating your own business instead of, like, finding, like, a job or something? Like,
Well, because I would work with somebody, I just said, you know what, I could just do this myself.
oh, okay.
And I just thought, I could be my own boss. I thought, what's the worst that could happen? If I fail, I'll go work for somebody, but I really don't want to work for anybody.
Mhm.
I really want to be my own boss, call my own shots, be independent, and it worked. But that was, and I tell my friends, I've encouraged other friends, start your own business. I said, what's the worst? You have to go work for somebody. I said, because there'll nothing be anything better than working for yourself. Because you can, the sky's the limit, how much money you want to make, and your flexibility. Like my parents are elderly, so I can go help them. Like today, I had to take my dad to the doctor, and I was there 4 hours. Well, if you work for somebody, it's hard to do that, you know. But you can still, you can make your own hours. And I mean, there's many times I'll be up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'll be sending out emails or invoicing or working. So that's the things, you don't have a steady paycheck, but you have the independence and flexibility. So I'm telling you right now, if you can ever start your own business, it's the best thing you'll ever do for yourself. You'll make more money than you could working for somebody. If you're hard and diligent and work hard, I suggest anybody and everybody to be your own boss.
Was there a specific point where you realized that's what you want to do, or like an experience you had where you just changed your mind or saw the light?
Well, who I was working for decided to cut commissions, and that's when I said, well, I have to work that much harder to make that much money. And that's when I thought, well, I'm splitting my commissions. I could just make all of it myself. And that's what, I mean, I thought, I'll just make it all myself. I'll just go out and the first year it was hard because a lot of customers were like, well, I'm not sure how long you can be in business. They didn't want to buy from me. So it took the first year before people said, okay, you're still in business, and you always gave me great service, always followed up, returned phone calls. So then that's how I got a lot of my customers back.
Wow. Did you have any mentors in the beginning? No.
No,
So you
no,
learned-
I really didn't. I just kind of just took the leap of faith and jumped and said, let me just go and do it. Yeah.
Did you face any challenges? I think you mentioned this a little bit.
Yeah, the
Some challenges.
financial challenge was probably the hardest. Trying to get the line of credit was probably the hardest. In the first year of customers not wanting to buy because they weren't sure that you were going to be in business. But after that, when they realized, okay, you've proven yourself, we're going to start buying from you. And so it would, it would start off a little bit, and then they said, yeah, the customer service that you always provided was so great. Some people came over sooner just because they realized they weren't going to get that hands-on and special attention and follow. And even nowadays, some of my customers go, you're the only person that calls me back, who follows up on emails. And they said other people won't even return a phone call, or won't even return a quote. And I'm like, really? They're like, yeah, because they're spread so thin, or because it may be a little piece of business. Some of these big companies, they don't want a little order. I'll take anything, because you know what? It all adds up, and you don't know where it's going to go. Where a lot of these big companies are like, if it's not over, X amount, well, it's just, they don't care. So I'll pick up all those crumbs, and, it all adds up.
So you were in Austin, but then in Houston, or have you lived in any other cities, or how do you ever?
Nope, just Austin for school,
Okay.
and then Dallas for my internship,
Okay.
and worked there for a year with Dillard's, and then back to Houston. No, I haven't lived anywhere else.
Okay. Do you like Houston?
I love Houston.
Great.
I don't like the weather. It's hot and it's humid. My husband hates it, but I love this. Like I said, I love the diversity, and I love that you can go eat all this great food everywhere. And I said the cost of living is very cheap, but you're in the middle of the country, so you can fly the East Coast, West Coast, South America, Mexico. I mean, anywhere. And I said it's a great place to make money, and the cost of living's not high, so you can have a great life. I mean, my husband just. He says he hates the heat and humidity. But I said, it's only, maybe 4 or 5 months out of the year. It's really bad. And I said, the people are really nice. And I said, the food is great, So he was like, I'm like.
Could you tell us more about your husband and how you guys met?
He's also in the chemical industry. He is originally from New York, and then moved here when he was 11. But he still has a little bit of a New York, certain words. But he's also in the industry, and that's how we met. So we dated for a long time before we got married. But he's got 3 children from a previous marriage.
Mhm.
They're all older, 35, 33, maybe in 27. And so I'm a grandmother by their children.
Mhm.
So I go by Gigi. I have 2 granddaughters. It's fun.
What kind of things do you like to do with them?
Play-Doh. Anything crafty. Play-Doh. I made some silly putty, cutting out things. Anything that's creative I like to do with her. Take her to the park.
Mhm.
Hopefully, eventually, the younger one, who's still only 7 months old, but she's real active and ready to run and crawl. And I said, she's going to be, I'm not a runner like you, but I like to run. Not fast, but I said, she's going to be my runner. I'm going to do a 5K with her one of these days. Take her to the children's museum,
Mhm.
anytime to a park. But anything creative, I try to want them to use her hands and paint, chalk, anything like that.
That's fun. Do you have any hobbies yourself, or do you like to read? And what do you like to read? What are you interested in?
I don't really get a chance to read, but I did read Crazy Rich Asians.
Yeah.
I love that book. I want to see the movie. I haven't seen it yet. So I get to read every once in a while, but more I end up listening to podcasts a lot,
Oh, yeah.
NPR podcasts. And I love listening to
NPR
those.
podcasts.
So I listen to that all the time at night, and that's kind of the way I kind of try to decompress and relax. I like to work out, run, eat, obviously, and try to travel a little
Mhm.
bit. Don't get to go overseas very often just because of my business. Since I'm the only one, I have to do everything. So even though I have some people who say, well, you need to go to Japan, or you need to go to Hong Kong. I'm like, if I'm gonna go, I need to take 2 weeks, and I can't do it because of my
Mhm.
business, unfortunately. So if I ever go anywhere, it's maybe a long weekend, or maybe a week at the longest. And so I haven't really been able to travel overseas as much as so I'm thinking when I retire, that's when I'll be able to do more traveling.
Where do you like to travel right now, and what do you like to do?
I like to go to the beach a lot. So Cabo, Grand Cayman are my favorite places. Then my stepdaughter lives up in Boston, so we go to Boston. And stepson lives in Denver, so we go to Denver and go to Carmel. We like to go to the West Coast or East Coast. But usually anything that's beachy. I'm really not a cold person. I don't really like to. I've gone skiing once, and I'm like, you put on all that gear, go up, come down, and I'm like, I gotta do this again. I'm like, forget it. I'm gonna go to the hot tub. So the beach is much more relaxing to me. It's pretty to see the snow, but those are the places I usually like to travel to.
And then you mentioned, well, not going back to Japan, but have you been to Japan, I guess, since your childhood, and do you have any desire to go back because you're from Japan, or is it just another place?
I would like to go. My mom says they're not going to like you because they could tell you're a banana. You're yellow mouse. They can tell you're an American. Plus, I don't speak Japanese. She goes, they will not like you. So I'm like, maybe I don't want to go. But no, I would like to. I've never been. My mom has never been back.
Wow.
And now she's too old. She was going to go in the 90s, but she ended up getting colon cancer. And she went through all the chemo and all that. And she just decided she said, no, I'm not going to go. So she doesn't have any, she lost her father and her brother during the war, and then her mother and her sister. So she doesn't have anybody. She may have some real distant relatives in Japan, but nobody she ever communicates with. But I want to go back, I want to go just because I think it would be beautiful and be interesting. The thing is since I don't speak the language, I don't know, maybe she's right, somebody won't like me. But I think I could I'll figure it out. And my husband really wants to go. So that's what we said, when we retire, we'll go and we'll spend 2 weeks or something like that there.
I had something and I forgot what I was going to say.
What area is your mother from?
Osaka.
Osaka, okay. And then is your father also from Japan?
He is from Colorado.
Okay.
He was born in Longmont, Colorado. He's Japanese, but he was stationed in the army in Japan. That's how he met my mother.
Okay.
And lied to her a little bit and said, I'm a rich farmer. You need to come back to America. Of course, she didn't want to. She didn't speak English. She didn't really want to, so I think he said he had proposed to her 3 times
Wow.
and convinced her to come. And I mean, that's why I said she has a very interesting, I can't imagine not speaking a language and going to a foreign country and not knowing anybody. So that took a huge leap of faith for her to do that, my father. But, so he wasn't a rich farmer, he was just a farmer.
Did she tell you any other stories that really resonate with you about her life?
Well, so my mom is kind of a hoarder. So it's like when the whole new millennium was going to happen and, you know, they said everything was going to crash, I said, I'm going to come to your house because you've got enough food to last 10 years. Because she's like, has like 3 refrigerators, 2 freezers. I mean, our pantry's, you know, packed. And she said, well, you know, you got to think growing up during the war, it didn't matter about money. Or it was all about food. So that's why she has an obsession about always making sure you have food. She goes, you needed to eat and drink. So she said, that's why I have so much food, because for her, that's her fear of not having enough food. So when I understood that, I go, okay, I understand. But I said, but this is expired 10 years ago. You can throw this away. But she has a hard time. And so I said, you know, my dad goes, you got to understand. I said, no, I understand. But she won't, nothing is wasted. You know, I mean, she'll use saran wrap and clean it off. She'll keep using that foil. She keeps using every container just because her mind is don't waste, don't waste. And if you grew up during the Depression, you can understand that. Us, we waste everything. So there's something to be said. And so she was recycling before recycling was cool.
Going back to your business, what are some like key lessons that you learned along the way?
Like I said, always pay your suppliers off on time so they'll continue selling to you. Follow up with your customers. Even if you don't have an answer, tell them I'm working on it. And I'm working on it, I'll try to get you the answers and try to get them the answers. Showing them customer service. When they ask a question, like I said, follow up, give them the information they need. And that, you have to make sure they pay you, because a sale isn't any good unless you get paid. So, you know, follow up and saying, where's my payment, and just keep bugging them until they pay you. I guess that's really it.
In the chemical industry, are there other Asian Americans that you've interacted with? Or
Not very many. Now, my cousin owns her own business. That's who I worked for, Donna Cole. She started her own business as well. And I worked for her those 5 years before I left. But there's not, like any Asians you see in the chemical industry, they usually work for the multinational companies like the Sumitomo's or the Mitsubishi's, the big companies like that. So I don't.
did you ever find that hard to like be in the industry, like not seeing yourself represented, or like your racial identity?
Actually, I thought that was an advantage because I thought I stood out. Because I thought, you know what, there's not that many. So when they see an Asian, they would remember Sonia Fujimoto. Because a lot of people would remember me more than I remember them, because there wasn't very many Asians. So like I said, to me, I said, I'm going to use this as an advantage instead of using it as an obstacle.
You mentioned how hard it was as a young kid growing up with no one understanding you or accepting you, but how did you make that transition to becoming just more comfortable and confident?
Sports, I think.
Okay.
I really think sports gave me, like, you know, something that I could do, and I could do it well, not great, but well. And people saw me differently, I think, and that's what made me, I think, assimilate better versus just kind of going in my own corner. I think that, you know, I became part of a team, and we travel on, you know, the different events, and I really think that's what gave me more confidence, and that I think that was a huge thing for myself, and I think any student should try to get involved, like I said, in any type. It doesn't have to be sports, but anything. So then you can get friends and get confident in something that you're good at and excel, and you'll have that voice, I think.
Did you realize that as you were going through it, or was it later when you looked back that you realized?
I think as I was going through it, I realized it.
Oh.
That's when I said, you know what? people can make fun of me, but I'm gonna show them.
Do you have any specific memories of just feeling like the victory, either in the sport, but how it translated to your own emotional life?
Oh. I don't know, I'm trying to think. Of course, if you won at any tournament, you always felt really good about yourself. So that's why I think for myself, that competitiveness came through as far as owning my own business. Like trying to get a piece of business was the competitive part of me. And I remember when I worked at the other company, we had to fill out some kind of forms, and I said, well, I'm not competitive. Everybody goes, you are so competitive. And I never saw myself as being that competitive. They go, yes, you are. Because if I want something, I'm going to go after it, and I'm going to try really hard, and I'm going to follow up and say, where am I? What's my price? Who got the business? And I said, okay, well, give me another chance. So I never would give up. So I think that's the part of it, yeah.
So how do you balance, I think you mentioned this before, but how do you balance work and personal life?
I don't. It's really
Oh.
hard. I mean, it's very difficult because I feel like my hands are full, and I have really bad insomnia. And my dad was like, "Why do you have insomnia?" I said, "My mind is always going." I said, "Because I'm always thinking, what do I need to do for work, and then I need to take care of you guys, or try to be Gigi, and I like to cook, and so it is very hard to juggle all that." But I have to say, with technology, it helps tremendously. So I'll have my to-do list all the time on my phone, and I'll go through it, and the calendar, putting on the calendar exactly what I need to do, that helps keep it balanced. But it's very difficult. I think that people my age now, we're like sandwiched because we have our parents on one side, our personal life, and then maybe grandkids. That you're having a really hard time doing it, and I think that's what creates the insomnia. But anyway, it's life. It's
So that hasn't been throughout your whole life that you've had insomnia? It's
no, I
reason.
think I was trying to figure out when it started. I think it started in 2000. Just juggling everything.
Was it in the beginning of your company? Or
No, I started my company in 1996,
1996.
so it was afterwards. It's actually, I think, when I was getting my divorce that it kind of started, the whole anxiety and trying to do. Then it was like, okay, I have my, I'm a single woman again. I got to, pay for mortgage and take care of myself and all that. So I think that's when the insomnia, and then it only progressively got worse as I got older because of more responsibilities. So I'm trying to work on that.
So do you have any time for side hobbies? I guess that includes like spending time with your grandchildren and
Yeah, I think you just have to carve out that time. So, I have another sister who doesn't make exercise a priority. So I try to make it a priority. I try to go to the gym. And luckily my husband, he's also really into working out. And I've tried to get him to run, so that's how we've balanced it. So we try to say, you know what, we got to go to the gym and we got to run to stay healthy. And that way they'll take care of my parents and take care of the grandchildren. But you have to carve it out. You have to say, this is my priority. I'm going to dedicate 3 days, 4 days a week. It's going to be an hour and a half in the morning, and I'm going to do it,
So your husband was also in a previous marriage and you were too. Is that kind of part of what helped you guys understand each other? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I always say, I had my practice husband. He had his practice wife. And now, we're a very blended family. But his kids are wonderful. They're great to me, and we get along great. And his mother is nice, so sweet. So it's really, we have our Thanksgiving and Christmases all together, both the families. So it's really nice. So we don't have to go. And we always host it. So it's nice. Everybody comes to our house, and we have his side of the family, my side of the family. So it's really, I feel so fortunate that it's worked out that way.
Great.
And what is his ethnicity?
He's Caucasian.
Caucasian. Okay.
Yeah.
So do you
He loves
Yeah.
sushi. He eats sushi more than I do. Him and his business partners go eat sushi minimum once a week, if not twice, and then we go at least once a week to go eat sushi. But he loves, he loves sushi. So I was very fortunate because I don't know what I'd do. I guess I could say, you could go eat the teriyaki or something, but he loves sushi.
How would you identify yourself? Like, as in, if you're Japanese, Japanese American, or something?
Probably American first,
Mhm.
then Japanese.
Mhm.
Just because growing up in Houston, I didn't have any exposure to any other Japanese except my immediate family and my cousins. I think if I grew up, now this is interesting, if I grew up on the West Coast, I think I would be more, consider myself Japanese American. Whenever we had a reunion there, my cousin and I, we went to a nightclub. It was all Asians. And let me tell you, I felt weird. My cousin, I feel so weird. There's all these Asians because we'd always seen all Caucasian. So it felt really odd to me. So I think for me, I identify more American and then Japanese. But as I get older, I definitely am more interested in the Japanese culture and what happened. And that's why I said I do want to go to Japan one day.
So what are, I guess, your hopes for the future, and what do you look forward to?
My hope is to one day retire, travel. I want to be the best Gigi ever. I want my granddaughters, and they do, she calls me, Gigi. But I want to be there for them because I wasn't close to either grandparent. So to me, it's really important for them to always feel like they can come to me, for me to support them. And if they ever are ever in trouble, I want them to always say, I can go to Gigi. She may not approve of what I did, but I can talk to her and she'll help guide me. That's really important to me. Also being there for my parents. I thought my parents were really good to me, supported me. So my goal is always to help them. And what happened was in 2013, they lived in Spring, and I lived right here in West University. And I said, Mom, Dad, you guys are getting older. I'm getting older too. You really need to move closer to me. And they were having a lot of health problems at the time. And so I said, Mom, don't you want to live close to me? Of course I wanted me to live closer to you. But my father was like, no, because he thought he was going to lose his independence. And I said, I'm not going to put you in a home. I just want you closer to me. And I want to downsize you because they lived in a big 2-story house, 10,000 square foot lot, a big, it was a huge house. I said, it's just you and Mom. You don't even go upstairs anymore. I said, you have all these health problems. I can't be driving back at midnight or 1 o'clock from Spring home. I said, if you live closer, I can help take care of you. It took 6 or 8 months to finally convince my dad, okay. And so we moved them 3 miles away from us. And I said, I'm going to move you into a house. It's 1 story, so you don't have to go up and downstairs, but you can still have your garden, and I said, you can still have your yard. And it was the best decision they ever made. And my dad said, it was. And they said, after we moved back over here by you, they go, we got healthy. I said, yeah, you got healthy. And then they kind of went down. But I said, look at this. When my mom broke her hip in 2015, I was able to help take care of her and go back and forth to the hospital. And then my dad broke his neck in 2016, and we were always going back and forth. And I said, can you imagine? I said, I could, but I would have, you talked about killing yourself. I said, to drive up to Spring every day. I said, here I was driving my mom to the hospital every day, or driving my dad to PT. I said, if you lived up in Spring, it would have been just almost, it would have really, I think, hurt my health as well. Because I think the strain of going back and forth from Spring, but now they live 3 miles away, it's been the best thing ever. So that's another thing that's always important to me, is to help take care of my parents. So family obviously is really, really important to me. I think that, when you think about, what gives you joy, it's help. I mean, to me, it's helping my parents, helping the grandchildren. That's where I get a lot of joy from.
What would you consider your greatest accomplishment so far in life?
Actually, my business. Yeah, I think that is, like I said, given that, because I'm able to have my own business, that has given me the freedom to help my parents and be flexible. So to me, that was my greatest accomplishment. And it, like I said, it provided me a nice income. So if anything ever happens, I got that, and I was able to save a lot of money. And my stepdaughter had brain surgery in May, so again, I was able to help her out and help take care of the grandchildren. If I had a job, I couldn't do that. So to me, that is the best accomplishment.
How have you seen like the Houston community change?
I've seen it go from a redneck community to, like I said, a very diverse community. And I see people of all races together. I see all these different restaurants, so people are eating Indian food, Chinese food, you know, Japanese, Tex-Mex. And I think I think people are so much more accepting of different ethnic divorces. When I grew up, I was the only Asian, and you don't see that. I think everybody's used to seeing different colors of skin and hearing different languages, that they're so much more accepting. I think Houston has now become a great place. Whereas growing up, it was rough, but now I think Houston's really a great place to live.
Do you interact with like the Japanese American community here, or?
No, I don't. I really don't.
Let's see. What would be? Do you have any like advice for young Asian Americans in today's society?
Or even just Americans, like you said, because
I say,
feel American.
you have a dream, follow it. Don't let anybody say you can't. Push yourself to do the most. If you push yourself always to do the most, you'll never have a regret. And like I said, if you can't, try to have your own business. That's my, and like I said, if you can't, if you fail, you can always go work for somebody. But you have to always, obviously, I think you have to, when you get out of college, go work for somebody, learn a business, learn a trade that you like. But then if you can, try to do it on yourself.
Are there anything else you want to talk about, or stories you want to tell?
I mean,
Let's see. I think I had another question. I'm trying to remember.
oh, and save money.
And save money.
Save money like crazy, because you never know when you...
So you took that, I remember you said that was one of the values your parents taught you, and you kept it.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
yeah.
Is
Like
there
my mom
any-
could stretch a dollar like nobody else, so... yeah, and so, like I said, when you're 16, you need to start working and start saving up for college. Because they didn't have the money to pay for 5 kids to go to college, so you knew you have to save money. And then when you go to college, you're going to have to work part-time to help pay for college. So work has always been, you know, part of who I am. And that's why I said the regret is I didn't partake in college activities, you know, because everything was about making money. So... but yeah, I think that everybody should, you know, save though. So many kids don't know, not kids, a lot of people don't know how to save, and they really need to save money. So, you know, if something happens, you've got to fall back.
Is that what you're going to instill, like you're instilling in your grandchildren?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And working hard and giving your best, give 110%, leave it out there, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So, do you have any more questions to ask?
No.
And do you have any more?
No,
anything else?
no,
Okay.
no. Thank you guys so
Yeah,
much.
thank you so much.
Appreciate it.